there, sweet peas. Welcome back to Friendless. I'm your host, James Avramenko, and this week we're diving into the wild world of online gaming with the one and only Sam Murdock. Sam is the guy in the chair behind the scenes of Codenames Live. He's also a board game fanatic and a Twitch streamer who's never afraid to go pantsless for the bit. We talk about building real connections in a digital age, the magic of Codenames, and why sometimes the best way to show up for your friends is just send them a meme. Let's get into it. So it's time to lean back, get comfy, set your volume at a reasonable level, and enjoy my interview with Sam Murdock here on Friendless. This week on Friendless, I have someone who has been the moderator of several of my big moments over the last year, but someone who I have yet to actually have the opportunity to have like a full-on just one-on-one he and I conversation. I met him through Codenames Live, but he does an incredible array of other work that we're going to get to. He's the one, the only Sam Murdock. How the hell are you?
I'm doing good, James. Thank you. It's I've witnessed a few events while you were playing Codenames with Meg, and I think Meg has been your only partner.
Yeah, well, there's been a few. I got initially brought on by Brian Nothing. He's
That's
me
right.
on.
Yeah.
And then we had, of course, the legendary Mark Benzler this very last time.
Yeah.
Where I think that was the first time I've ever won a regular game.
Yeah. Meg came back with Clayton's wife and still lost. So we're really identifying the issue in teams here.
What do you call it when both members are the weak member? You know.
There's not a good word for that, so I think that's just yeah.
I love it. So Sam, as we talked about was Codenames, and we're gonna get to that, but for any listener who may not be familiar with you, I'll put the question to you very simply. Who the fuck are you?
I am a man of many things. I'm primarily known as a nerd. Like, I'm even wearing, you can barely see it, but it's a Stitch and Doctor Who crossover shirt.
Gorgeous.
Because why not? They never interacted in the slightest. Let's smash those together.
Yep.
But also on my free times, I stream video games. I love like indie titles. I love things where like, oh, this one guy made Balatro, and he thought, yeah, whatever, my friends will play that, and now he's $100,000 in and famous games and being like, hey, can we throw our people on your cards? It's like, my production file still says card game. Like,
so that's kind of the jam for you.
Yeah, but I'm also like, I'm the token tech guy of my family. Hey, the printer's not working. Well, yeah, it's a printer. It smells fear. Like, you told it you're in a hurry. You're not getting a page out of that.
Yep. Oh, I love it.
I'm the jack of all trades. Like, if something needs to get done, I can figure it out. I learned video editing because a friend is like, hey, can you tell me how to do clips for this thing? And I was like, buddy, I will just do the clips myself.
Yeah. That is something that I really, it's funny. My brain goes in two different directions with that. A, being like, I respect that so deeply. And then the like therapized side of me is like, oh no, Sam, don't overdo yourself,
I have that special autism ADHD where I don't just need to know a skill exists. I need to understand the skill.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then the when you figure out the system, but then it's still novel, right? It's still interesting to you, right? Yeah. That's the sweet spot right there.
My partner doesn't like being on cameras, so I looked into how to do VTubing. I was like, okay, here, I've thrown together a quick model from free shit. We can install it on your computer. You can do webcam stuff without anybody ever seeing your face.
Whoa. Okay, we have to circle back to VTube stuff because that is something that I'm fascinated by, and I don't want to get too deep in the wood, like too deep in the weeds too early.
Fair.
But that is something that I am fascinated by. Maybe we might need to end up just doing this an off mic thing because like I want to know everything about it. But let's dog ear that for now.
Okay.
So you very much are this jack of all trades. You're kind of the like tech savior, in my experience with the crossovers, and I'm very curious about how did that kind of formulate for you. I think you wrote that you studied public relations,
Yeah.
and so
So
I'm curious about that sort of that pipeline.
yeah, so I am a three-time computer programming dropout.
Mm.
I originally went to, I don't even remember what it was, in Toronto, and then somebody stabbed their father in my apartment building. So I went, fuck that, I'm moving out of Toronto.
Yeah,
And
fair.
then the program here, so that was computer programming and analysis, but the college here didn't have and analysis, so they made me start over.
Gotcha.
And then
Of course.
coding is a goddamn nightmare, and I hate it,
Hmm.
but it's
Hmm.
so intriguing because somebody once described it as a murder mystery where you're the detective, the victim, and the killer. And I went, fuck,
Holy
that's
shit.
so true.
It's spot on. I spent lockdown learning a couple basic languages,
Yeah,
and it was so interesting at the time. And now I'm like, you put any, and I'm like, I have
yeah,
no idea what I'm looking at.
yeah.
It's a foreign language to me again.
Oh, 100%. And then so that kind of veered into the, well, if I could figure out how the brain works, can I make the hardware work? And making hardware work is
Yeah,
so much easier.
yeah,
Oh, this button wasn't pushed. Oh, that light's off. Well, why is that light off? This wire's loose. Done.
right.
And so then in the capitalist hellscape of the world we live in, everybody needs a degree to get a job. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
let's do the local colleges. What program should I apply for? Quiz. And it said you should do accounting, library tech, or public relations. And I went, well, my mom and sister are already librarians, and that's a weird family job. We're all librarians. So I was like,
Yeah,
let's try public relations.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
good at communicating. I can code switch with people.
Yeah. And and the nice thing is, I mean, barring any great disaster, like that library legacy is always going to be there.
Yeah,
You can always fall back on that, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%. So that's that.
That's
Yeah, it's
that's so fascinating that you've got the sort of I'm stuck on the library thing for a moment because I that's such an interesting like lineage. Are so you must be a family of readers, I have to
oh
assume.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like I didn't even grow up reading Harry Potter. I grew up having it read to me as a bedtime story.
Right. Yeah,
Like all the
yeah.
way through those. Like if we took a family vacation, it was audiobooks the whole way down and back. So like
Yeah.
I've listened to like Harry Potter, but also Sylvia Plath and the
Yep.
whole Alphabet Murder series. Like
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's an interesting, that's been a thing that, cuz as a kid, all I had was books, right?
yeah,
So I read books and books and books and books. Uh as I grew up, I moved more into comics cuz they're just easier. But then I've always had it in my head that I was like I'm a reader. I always read
yeah,
books. And but over the last couple of years I've recognized that, I was talking about this on the last episode. I've recognized that like um buying books and like having books is a totally different pastime
yeah,
than reading books, right?
yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I used to work. You're Canadian, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I used to
yeah.
work at Chapters before it
Right, of
became
course.
Indigo,
Yeah.
and same idea. It would be like, oh, they let me borrow a book so that I can have knowledge base to talk to customers. I don't have to buy anything for a while. I'll just borrow a book,
Yeah.
read it, give it back. It's my personal
Oh,
library of new releases.
brilliant. But and this is the thing that it leads me to is that I've realized that audiobooks are now my jam.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
100%. Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my god. And it's reminded me that like my dad used to be a big audiobook guy, but he was a books on tape guy, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
like
The
right.
actual, yeah, 14 cassettes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, did you remember those like the padded cases and they all
Yeah.
popped into their squares,
Yep.
Like oh, it's the best. Um oh my god, that just unlocked a memory of listening to Interview with a Vampire when I was
Yeah.
like 8.
Yeah. McDonald's is full of cigarette smoke and yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh my god. Um but so okay, so let's not get too hung up on this. I feel like we could just like autistically fixate on any number of things.
Every single
We
thing we bring
ri-
up could be its own episode.
exactly. We got to focus up here. Um because I really want to lead us to what got you involved with Codenames. Because so like from
Yeah.
from from my from my sort of perspective, what I'd like to hear is the gap of like, so you've got all these skills developing, and you're clearly a board gamer and stuff like that, and so yeah, how did all that kind of fall into place?
Yeah, so it's like seven different branches on my story. So COVID hit, everyone's locked inside, and I have an Xbox One. Yeah, one, not the 360, the Xbox One. And I know that Microsoft has this streaming thing called Mixer just built into it. So I say, you know what, friends, I will stream Jackbox. That's our way to spend time together.
Cool.
Every Friday night or whatever, I'll put Jackbox on at 7:30. I'll blast out the code. We can all have fun.
Fuck yeah.
And so from there, my friend Danielle Allard, who is a teacher at Algonquin, she started doing a Instagram live show, just checking in on people, saying, "Hey, what have you been up to? Come chat with me for 30 minutes. We'll do, just show people that there is still joy in the world." And then from there, she started streaming on Twitch and doing music. And I went, I could stream video games on Twitch and give people entertainment. And then, so I was modding for her. She hit partner immediately fast, like crazy fast. Fantastic performer. But I was moderating for her when our mutual friend Tim joined the chat.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm also in Ottawa. I'm going to go get some poutine when this is over. And he went, no, fuck that. Meet me at this place. I will buy you poutine. This is way better than the crap you're going to go get. Because Tim's a huge foodie.
Fuck yeah. Yep.
So I traveled to Gatineau, which is basically the same city, but on opposite sides of the provincial border.
Okay.
Like Ottawa, Gatineau are basically twin cities.
Gotcha. Yep.
And met a guy I'd seen his name online for 30 seconds in a French place where I speak French, but not Quebec well enough. They'll still judge me.
Yes. And that's the difference.
Poutine.
There's a big difference between speaking French and speaking Quebecois, So,
yeah, exactly. I can understand it, and I can fumble my way through it, but they'll judge me.
Yeah.
And so I was chatting with him, and he was saying, I'm also doing this thing. You should check it out. I call it Codenames Live. It's just me and my friends. It'd be cool to have you join us and check that out.
Yep.
And so that happened, and then I saw like, oh man, he doesn't have any of these permissions set up. He doesn't have commands and things like that. And I was like, okay, here, Tim, I will help you out on get this rolling because you've got a great idea. It's a ton of fun to watch you and all your comedian friends.
Yeah.
And so it's just ballooned over time, and then eventually he brought me on camera.
Yeah.
And like I remember the first few episodes where I was on camera, I forgot I was on camera. So I was just like, I was sharing an apartment. Like I was renting one room in a 5-bedroom house with a ton of strangers because it's dirt cheap. And so I'm just in my bedroom with my gear and headphones on. And it's like, fuck, it's hot in here. So I take off my shirt and Tim goes, nobody look at the screen. Sam's shirtless. It's like, oh fuck, I'm on camera.
You got to give the people what they want,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like years later we brought on, I can't remember his name, Human Juke, who's another musician on Twitch.
Okay.
And I famously don't wear pants if I'm on Twitch because fuck it, you can't see me from here down.
Yep.
And somebody's like, I will drop 50 subs if Sam proves it. So I stood up and showed, hey, I'm in my boxers. Like, where's my 50 subs? And so that's, people have seen me prove that I'm pantsless from chest down. Like,
gorgeous. And the irony too is that now Tim is always announcing the new episode shirtless, So it comes full circle, right?
Yeah. And that's a weird thing too. Like he just noticed that one day he couldn't be bothered, and it got 20,000 views.
Again, you got to give the people what they want,
Yeah. Those algorithms are wicked.
Right? Exactly. So on Codenames, you talk often about, you've got you've got this newsletter that you do where you recommend video games. You also, you, Tim, and so many of the other guests, you talk really extensively about board games. And there's this incredible board game subculture that I just have like very, very passing, like I have Wingspan like collecting dust under my coffee table, like because nobody will play it with me, but I'm really curious about how do you maintain your kind of board game fixation?
For sure.
Like, do you have a big group together, or do you do? How do you do that?
I largely blame it on Tim because I was was like you, like I was familiar with board games. I played Catan. My family enjoyed all these little whatevers, and then just towards the end of COVID, Tim started saying, hey, my daughters are out for the weekend. Do any of my friends want to come over and play board games? And we've had that going every 2 weeks for 2-3 years now.
Awesome.
Sometimes it's at his place, sometimes it's at our friend Evan's. I'm super fortunate in that the 3 apartment buildings that I live at have event spaces you can just rent out for free.
Gotcha.
So I've got a party room in the basement. I say, hey, yep, can I book it on this Sunday or Saturday, whatever, and we'll have 5-10 people come over. We'll play a handful of board games. We'll chat. We'll enjoy social life, and then
Yeah.
we'll do Codenames on Monday.
I love it. I love it. Is there any these days that you're like really sold on, like really fixated on, or any
I
recommendations?
I fucking love deck builders. Like any game
Okay.
that the engine is figure your shit out
Yeah.
is all.
Okay.
I'll die for. Like I've got one on my thing called Clank, which is you are all adventurers trying to get into a dungeon to grab all the dragon's treasure and get out before you
Okay.
wake it up.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got like heavy armor you can wear, so if you roll
Right.
poorly on the die or you draw poorly on the dice, you tripped. You made a noise. The dragon add another dragon to the dice bag. And so
Yeah.
you've got to
Okay.
build your deck and weed out the cards you don't want, and that gets you in and out. And that's really cool. Tim just introduced me to one. I think it's called Control, but you're 2 battling AI systems. And so the game comes with like 12 half decks, and you just both choose 2, shuffle them together, and there you go. And I was like, this is blowing my mind because like no 2 games are ever going to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds rad. That sparks a little some random factoid in my brain. That the number of permutations for a 52 card deck, if you shuffle it once, the odds are so like the statistics on it are so high that no 2 deals have ever happened before
Yeah,
in
or
like
will be until the heat death of the universe. Yeah,
yeah it's
yeah,
some
yeah.
like astronomical high number, and it just that one wrinkles my fucking brain. I just
It's
can't.
so good.
Yeah. Yeah. That really, the sort of the foundation of the board game stuff. And I want to swing back to video game stuff down the road, but I feel like the board game element really encapsulates one of the sort of tentpole questions of the show. And it's really interrogating this question of community and sort of like what is community to you, and then as a further kind of build on that of like how do you build community within your own kind of for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So community to me is tricky because I know the like dictionary definition is it's people you surround yourself with, but we live in an increasingly digital world. Like
Yes.
my partner lives in Minnesota. My one of my best
Mm.
friends lives in I think he's in Alberta. Like it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So community to me is just regulars, people you interact with on a constant basis. They don't have to be
Mm.
close anymore. They just have to be someone you're familiar with, someone you'll
Mm-hmm.
show a little bit of your soul to. That's your
Mm.
community.
Yeah.
And the way I build that is just be real. Just grab a friend of a friend, and go down the chain.
Yeah.
Like that's the way it's been working for me. Is like I met my friend Danny, and I met her friend Tim, and now I've met all of Tim's friends and their friends of friends, and then I've met their friends, and I've met you, and through you I've met this guy, and then it just goes down and on.
Yeah. That's such a fascinating take. I like that because so often this is a big reason why I wanted to get you on the show, to be honest, because so often we talk about, and I think we talk about it obviously because it's very vital, but it's like we talk so often about the sort of the local community, right? And sort of
Yeah,
like the in person, and obviously, I think especially with the way things are going these days, I think local is going to be pretty fucking important coming up,
yeah,
but there is this whole other realm that I personally dip my toes in and out of, which is that the sort of digital world,
yeah,
and for years I have really and will continue to really vociferously like defend online communities and the
yeah,
need for finding connection wherever you can, right? and
yeah,
and 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 where I struggle with it is the idea of like we're we're inherently social creatures, and years ago, like I think I was in like university, some like whacked out hippie who was probably high on mescaline or something on a like a double decker bus in Victoria, BC, was like telling me about how like our bodies are magnets kind of thing,
hmm
and obviously it's like okay buddy, but it's also like, but I like the spirituality behind it because he was talking about like we are always at once attracting and repelling everything, and
Yeah.
we feed off of that magnetism, and the only way we feed it is by being in person and being
Yeah.
in communion together, right? And that's something that when I lean into my digital communities, I struggle to feed that need, you know.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, yeah, your experience with, like, how do you replenish that if the sort of the in real life stuff is lacking, and it's leaning more on digital.
Yeah, it can definitely be tricky. I love video calls like this. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
huge for when online just isn't quite hitting it enough. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
also play video games with my friends because that gives us that we're interacting. It brings me back to childhood, sitting in a room with 4 other friends playing Mario Party.
Fuck yeah. Yep.
My partner and I try to do Stardew Sundays where we'll play a farm sim.
Awesome.
It's not always Stardew. We're heavy into Fae Farm. I just introduced her to a new one called Fields of Mystria.
Mm.
So it's just these little tiny, yes, online, but what are you using online for?
Yes.
Like, that's a huge one. Like, is a sometimes we'll just sit on Discord and play completely separate games while chatting.
Yeah.
And so there'll be this hilarious moment where, like, I'm deep in a heartfelt cutscene and I'll just hear, "Oh God, fucking damn it!" It's like, "Oh, okay, what's wrong?" She's like, "Oh, nothing. The guy I wanted to use this attack used an item instead." It's like,
It's
okay,
like,
he's my guy's dead.
right. It's like Aerith is being murdered, but
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And Barrett is over somewhere tripping over a chocobo. Like,
I love it. I love it. But that alone, even that kind of, like, you could almost call it the dichotomy, is actually that creates almost more humane connections too, right? Because
exactly.
then you're not just locked away. You're still having
Yeah,
that, like, oh right, there's live people here, right?
yeah, exactly. And I find, like, I'm a Twitch streamer. I find that helps a lot because then
Yeah,
it's just more friends sitting on my couch watching me play a single player game and telling me,
sure.
"Hey, you missed a thing. Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Hey, this game kind of sucks."
Right,
And
right,
it's
right.
like it's those interactions that I'm huge into as well. So it's like,
Yeah,
if I don't work today, fuck it, I'll go live for 2 hours. I'll make a buck or whatever. It doesn't matter
sure.
to me. But I'll get to entertain my friends.
Tell me a little bit more about this. Tell me a little bit more about streaming. It's something that again, it's one of those, like, I'm passingly aware of it, but I've
Yep.
always been too intimidated by it. I've also always felt like, and this again, I've been on a roll the last couple of episodes of saying this and knowing it's bullshit, but, like, I've always felt like a little too old for it, you know. But it's also like, shut the fuck up, James.
Yeah.
Get over yourself, right? You know. But like, yeah, tell me a little bit more about, like, how do you sort of enter the realm of like Twitch streaming and stuff like that, and
For
how
sure.
do you go
Yeah.
about doing that?
So I'm going to back up a step and just yell at
Please.
you for being too old, because some of the coolest streamers are legitimately like a fucking army veteran who plays Call of Duty and tells people, okay, he's this far away by my sight finder, so I'm going to put him 2 dots on my scope and headshot. It's like,
Crazy.
I hate that you know that in
Yeah.
real life and have
Yeah.
used this skill, but also
Yeah.
you're 80 and headshotting people 100 yards away in Call of Duty. Like,
that's so dystopian in, like, the best sense of the word.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Like, he'd absolutely, like, if the world fell apart, he'd absolutely be like the old guy in the cave that people tell stories about.
Right.
It's like, so don't go near Farmer Jim's cave, he'll take you out at 100 yards. It's like, I don't understand any of those words, but I'm not
Yep.
going near that fucking cave.
Yep. Yep.
But to actually get into Twitch streaming it's heavy on the technical side, in that there's a lot of setup you have to do. There's programs you're unfamiliar with.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's always room for error in that, oh, it's just not capturing your game, or it's just not capturing your camera if you're a performer, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I liken it a lot to busking in the digital age. You're not standing on a street corner, you're standing on a website. And you're just saying, hey, here's what I have to offer. If you like it, drop a follow, get a little ding when I go live, come hang out. If you really like it, throw me $1, give me a subscription, whatever you like. I'm offering it for free. Support me if you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I view it. And I know some people view it as, no, I am there to perform. People must pay me.
Right.
And I hate that. That feels disingenuous.
Yeah.
And so I like I said earlier, I got into it just purely for the entertaining my friends in the middle of a global pandemic. Everyone's locked inside.
Yeah.
And I like to think that's kind of stuck with me the whole time, is that I might get $50 every 2 months Like, I
Sure.
don't have a huge audience. I have 2 or 3 regulars and a handful of people who pop in and out.
Yeah.
But I know there are people who like, oh yeah, I made 16 grand. Wow, it was a slow month. I went, that's half my yearly income. Like,
Yeah, literally. Right? I think that's the thing that really baffles me and really intimidates me is that I think I honestly I have the same ethos around my podcast where it's like I just put it out because I like it and it makes me happy.
yeah,
But knowing that like some fucking Neanderthal mouth breather is being paid like millions of dollars by Spotify to like and it's like
yeah,
the disparity of the possibility with the form it ends up kind of like disheartening me in a way.
yeah.
Uh,
And I, there are some standards I hold myself to that I shouldn't hold myself to. Like, I had friends who started streaming after me, but they got one lucky raid where like they were playing Detroit Become Human, and one of the people who played in that game raided into her, and that resulted in like thousands of followers. And I was like, well, you
wow.
got a lucky break. That's bullshit. I put a lot of hard work into this.
Right, sure,
And so
sure.
that's something like I had to work with my therapist, and I was like, I really have to like get over this.
Yeah.
It's not her fault that I'm jealous.
Of course, of course. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely not a her problem. Yeah.
Like, yes, she got a lucky break. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like what isn't a lucky break in a certain
Well,
perspective,
like the fact that I'm able to sit at a computer and play video games and make any amount of money, like,
That's just it, right? That's exactly right. Yeah. It's just such a fascinating world to me in that like I worry sometimes I slip into like old man yells at cloud type
it's
mentality where
hard not to these days.
right. Yeah, with the things like watch-alongs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But then I have watched those and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get it. I get it entirely." Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter doing all their Let's Plays, and I went,
Mhm.
I want to do that. And
Mhm.
COVID gave me that chance, and now I do.
Yeah. It also, what the inroad for me was that there was all these old games that I'd played when I was a kid, but had no access to, and even if I did, I didn't really actually want to replay them. Like I was thinking of like in lockdown, I watched like the original Metal Gear Solid and
Yeah,
like the original Silent Hill 2 and like these kinds of games that right, these games that I was like I haven't played these since I was a kid and would I even want to go back to them? But so I
yeah,
watched people play them, and I was like, oh yeah, that just scratched the exact itch I needed.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny you brought up Silent Hill too, because that was kind of a moment I picture evolving my stream, because that was a game purely for my viewers. Because I'm
Mm.
known, like, I fall for jump scares so easily, and
That's
my viewers know that. So I was like, you know what, guys, I will play for October. I will play Silent Hill 2 remake in high
fuck
def,
yeah,
and I
fuck
will
yeah.
even give you free sound alerts that you can redeem just by watching my channel. And so it was just a month of my anxiety through the roof, and
Yep.
like dark room with a flickering flashlight, and I know there's a monster in here, and oh
Yeah,
god.
yeah, and that fucking radio. That
Yeah,
that remake took me about 3 months to finish because I just
yeah,
kept on like, and I knew like I know the story, I knew what was happening, and I still was like, oh, this is a lot,
yeah,
fellas, like
yeah, absolutely. There were times where I'd pause the game, I'd put the controller down, I'd push back, and I'd say, we'll be
Mhm.
back in 5 minutes, guys.
Right,
I'm going
exactly.
to have a heart attack if we keep going.
Yeah, I need to go watch Nyan Cat for a few minutes,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Jesus Christ.
How do you keep your connections in this digital age? Like, how do you form new ones? How do you keep them? And how do you protect the digital versus the physical, and the intermingling there?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the fucking question, Right. I think the short answer is poorly. But um yeah, that has really been so over the last I would say over the last like year and a half or so I've really moved into a mode of like keep my circle real fucking small, right? Like as small as possible. Um and that served me for a time, but now I'm actually it's funny you should ask that because that is the sort of next phase that I'm moving myself into in how do I um nurture some of the connections that I've let kind of wane
Yeah,
and how do I build new ones, right?
yeah,
Um and it's been through things like doing code names and
yeah,
you know this podcast in a way has been sort of my secret weapon at times, because it's been a way to like be like, I'd really like to hang out with you, but I have no reason, and I'm too anxious to just say, hey, I think you're cool, let's be friends. So instead I'm going to be like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast, and try and
Yeah,
like pretend to be an interesting person for an hour, you
yeah,
know. But with that removed, it's I've really circled back to a couple pieces of advice that some former guests have given throughout the last, I would say, about the last year or so. And a big thing was this idea of like, when someone else tells you what makes them happy or what they like, or if they tell you about a show, or if they tell you about a book, or whatever it is, if they say, oh man, I really love this kind of chocolate bar, whatever it is, I've been trying to really make a point to like write that stuff down and remember it, and then at just sort of like random times, I think even Tim might have been the one who talked about this, at just like random times, if they pop into my mind, I go out and I like try to
yeah,
find that chocolate bar, or I remember to text that friend who I haven't heard from in a while, or
yeah,
like just those little things. I think it really boils down to just like trying to be a little bit more proactive with how I show up, you know,
for sure.
and not slipping into that very very easy and very familiar sheen of they're not texting me because they hate me and they're mad at me, and it's all my fault, and instead
Yeah,
it's like, what if we just both suck at texting?
yeah,
So you right,
100%. Like
yeah,
I still have songs on my Spotify that people in college said, "Hey, you might like this," and so now that song is their song. Every time I hear it,
hmm
oh, this is Jeff Hay. Shout out to him.
hmm
Introduced me to this jazz techno, and it's incredible, and it only reminds me of him. That's
yep,
the Jeff song.
yep,
And like I'll do that with like memes and stuff like that. Like there's a photo of a fox in a snowstorm with his just fur blown back, and it's heckin' windy, and so that
yes,
reminds me of people. And like there's a
yep.
Pokemon version of that, and it just goes down the chain.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. And it is this thing too, and maybe you relate to this too, being one of the sweet little touched by the tisms, is remembering that it's something I remind myself, is that thinking good thoughts about someone is not the same as sharing those good thoughts,
Yes,
right? And
yeah,
so and it's something that I have really uh you know bit this is therapy speak, but it's something I have been ineffective at in the past, in that like I've often sort of consoled myself by being like, oh yeah, I thought of that person, and then I just went back to playing video games,
yeah,
and aren't I such a good person for thinking nice thoughts, and
yeah,
instead what I've been doing is like, if somebody pops in my head, I text them, or I or whatever, I go look them up, and I reach out and I contact, because it's yeah, if it's like I think especially nowadays, it's like it's just so important to share,
yeah,
and
absolutely,
to
yeah,
not hold it in, right? And
yeah.
it's almost that like I am cringe but I am free,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Right, like be
I like
cringy.
I'm on Facebook and I just share whatever I like because I think what I like other people will get a chuckle at. And like people are like, "Oh,
Exactly.
you should start a meme page for that." And I go, "No. I don't need to tell the public what I find funny. I'm fine telling
hmm
my friends what I find funny."
Bingo. Bingo. Yeah. Isn't that, oh my God, doesn't that build on something too? The idea of like not needing to make everything a side hustle,
Yeah.
right?
Jesus. Yeah.
Right?
I'm
And I
like,
think that actually might have been one of the things that's held me back from streaming, is that because I play video games all the time, and I kind of don't want to add that like extra pressure of like,
"Yep."
right?
And sometimes it's hard to decide like, am I being Sam today or am I being Suited Monkey, this Twitch streamer today? What am I being on Twitch? Am I going for those jokes or am I just stream of consciousness at my friends?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And that, okay, so that building out from the ideas of community, and coupling that with the idea of streaming and being visible, and with the sort of like video game ecosystem being really run by the loudest shitheads possible,
Yeah.
like the narratives really get controlled by the screaming monkeys,
Yes.
um and I'm curious, in a few different directions, and we can kind of we could tease this out as we go, but it's like, what is your sort of experience with that kind of volatility, and how do you find yourself either pushing back or at least kind of like trying to maintain your own kind of like safe ecosystem for yourself and your
Oh yeah,
community?
I'm very open with the banhammer. If you piss me off, get
Mm-hmm.
the fuck out.
Yeah.
I have no room for assholes. I don't deal with that shit. If I've
Mm-hmm.
heard bad things about you that are verifiable by someone I trust, I don't trust you,
Yeah.
and you're done. There's
Yeah.
no. You can write me a second chance note. You can request an unban. If I'm feeling generous, I'll give you another chance.
Yeah.
No, I have
Yeah.
little commands on my bot that are like art services because I keep getting people coming in saying, "Hey, I'm an artist that could use a commission," and I'm a broke Twitch streamer that gets all his shit for free.
Yeah.
Are you offering me something for your own exposure? Because every
Yeah.
artist I've ever heard from says, "Do not do this."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the way I kind of protect me and my friends, is just very vigilant,
Mm-hmm.
absolute no bullshit. If I don't
Mm-hmm.
like the vibes, you're not part of the community.
Mm. I love that. I have a similar ethos on my TikTok, in that it's like, if you like one comment and you're gone,
Yeah,
like what, right? Like I don't engage with you unless I'm having a really bad day.
yeah.
But even that's very, very rare. But
I
like,
am
yeah,
a little naughty playing online games where like it gives me a chat to other people, and sometimes
right.
I'll fire off that comment and then leave the game so they can't respond. It gives me the tick of joy, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it pisses them off because it would piss me off.
Yeah.
But I got my joy and I ran away.
You're part of the problem, Sam.
I am
That's
100%.
yeah.
I am the toxicity I don't want to see in the world. Like,
um But continuing on the idea of like, the idea of community within video games. Again, it's such a fascinating ecosystem, and it's such a fascinating subculture, even though, I mean, fuck, it's pretty mainstream at this point. Um, but I guess maybe one of the directions I'm curious in is like, do you find do you have a sort of a go-to community, or do you collectively sort of float, like, do you float around a specific game and people rotate around it, or do you as a group float around different games together?
yeah, so I have a core. My partner and our friend Stupid Monkey, which
Mm.
gets confusing when I'm suited, he's stupid. So
Yeah.
that's a whole thing. We're a core, and we float around a couple games. Like right now, we're playing a lot of Helldivers, a lot of Marvel Rivals.
Yeah.
Jen and I will do farming games or things like that. But then there's also like Mr. ADHD Games will join us on things, and other people will join those games. So it is very much there's a core with a couple games, but
Mm.
then in those games we float around and collect a few other people who play with us, and that's
Gotcha.
kind of the ideal that we have going on.
Yeah. And do you find, like, are there any like old standbys, like any recommendations of like where you would start with this kind of thing?
um that's a good question. It's tricky. It's really, you have to find a game you like, and you have to find someone you like who also likes that game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hard part, is that you may like the game and you may like them, but they fucking hate the game.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that's where people can struggle sometimes. I know, like, I'm not a huge fan of Dead by Daylight, but my partner is, so I play a lot of that.
Hmm.
But I grumble the whole time, and I tell her, I'm sorry, I'm so annoyed and grumbly about this game, but you enjoy it, so I'm playing for you, and I'm trying not to grumble about it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm on board with you. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that that game has survived as long as it has.
Like, there
But
are genuine moments where it's so fun just
yeah,
hiding around the corner as the guy goes running past and you sneak past him.
sure, sure.
But there are other times where you're 40 feet away, he swings and hits you, and you go, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been my number with all that type of game. The whatever it is, the Monster V, the team, like,
Yeah.
all those games. I'm just like, this is horseshit. Also, I never get to be the monster ever. It's so frustrating, right? Like, just let me be Jason Voorhees. God damn it.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a left turn from what we've been talking about, but I think that a lot of what we've been discussing this whole time has been like, finding these pockets of joy, and
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to sort of like yeah, allowing yourselves to breathe a little bit, because like the world is fucking rough right now,
Yeah,
and I think it is okay to find a balance within that. I'm not somebody who thinks you have to be always online and know every new update and know every, like, I don't see that as, um I can understand the argument for it being a privilege, and at the same time too, I don't see that as a negative privilege. Yeah, I guess is
yeah,
maybe the way of putting it. I don't know. Maybe that's a clumsy way of putting it, but um, with all that kind of in mind, with the state of everything and how heavy everything is, I'm curious, like, what is one thing that's giving you hope these days to sort of keep going and keep doing your
yeah.
thing?
Um, that's a tough question. Like, obviously, just the fact that like my friends are there and my friends need somebody and I need somebody, so there's that mutual. Let's get through this shit show together. There's light at the end of the tunnel. All the
Mm,
idioms we've grown up with,
of
but
course.
also like how bad can it get? Like
Mm,
I'm not in a third world country. I have fresh water. I have a
mm,
roof over my head. Even if I don't have a roof over my head, I've got support systems through my government.
sure.
So yes, the world is bleak, but I'm not at the bleakest.
Sure.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of like I'm floating, but how much floating room do I have? Is kind of
Yeah.
where I find that level. Like it's bad, but it's not the worst. So am
Yeah.
I really that? Do I have that much to grumble about?
Yeah. I guess there is always, I do appreciate that of like, in a way it's funny to be like, well, it can always be worse. But like but at the same time too, recognizing the good that you do
Yeah,
have, right?
yeah. Like,
Um
thank God I'm not like Ukrainian. Like,
yeah.
poor people. Like 20% of their country is just destroyed,
Yeah.
and their president is getting yelled at because he didn't wear a fucking suit.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I don't
By a
have to
guy
worry
who's,
about that.
and by I mean, the fucking Elon Musk is walking around in a fucking t-shirt and blazer and a fucking
While his
baseball hat,
5-year-old kid says you're a motherfucker to the actual
like
president. Like,
it's all just oh my god, it's so hard. Like, it isn't that I avoid politics. I'm actually deeply entrenched into politics and I'm very, very hyper aware of it all. It's that, like, in a certain direction, it's so simple to see the bullshit that
yeah,
it's like it's almost not even worth unpacking, because it's just like, they're gaslighting you. Shut the fuck up. Look at what you're seeing. Shut the fuck up.
yeah.
Like, there's no like, oh, and the stuff about like, oh, he had an autistic motor function issue, and it's
It's
like,
like it
I'm
was a Roman
sorry.
salute, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
you know
like,
what the Roman salute came from? The
exactly.
Nazis.
Exactly. That's the
Like,
thing. We don't even know if the Romans did salute like that. That was made up by the fucking Italian fascists, like,
yeah,
it's all horseshit, and it's just like, I think I've hit a level of saturation where I'm like, I don't need to unpack every fucking talking point, because it's like, what new bullshit are they spinning now?
yeah.
Like, just look at it and you see what's, but I don't know.
Well,
It's, yeah,
and I saw something powerful, I think, on Tumblr that went like, "You're not going to change the people's mind who are spewing this shit,
that's right.
but you'll bring awareness to the people who aren't fully bought in yet, saying there's a resistance.
Yes.
You're not
Yes.
arguing against them. You're convincing the witnesses."
Yes. And so that's exactly right. And that's kind of that's where I end up falling with it, where it's like, I don't really I
Sorry to
think
make your whole podcast about this now.
no, 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 it's great. It's great. It's great. It's no, no, no. This is, I prompted this. It's the thing of like, it's that balance of like, how do you discuss these things um without creating more conflict? And this is something that
Yeah.
I wrestle with a lot internally and sort of philosophically, and I have yet to really, as with all these questions, why I continue to answer them, because, or to ask them, because I don't think there is a single concrete answer. I think it's a very liquid, it's
Hmm.
ephemeral and it changes all the time. But like, it's this idea of like, to create peace, you don't fight for peace, because to fight
Well,
for something
exactly.
is to create more conflict, right?
Yeah.
And so you create peace by being peaceful, and by acting peaceful, and by not creating more conflict. And obviously, there's also a gulf, and this is something I've been writing a lot about recently, is this idea of like there's a big gulf between being a pacifist and being a coward, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you do still have to, if somebody attacks, you still have to defend yourself, it's not about just like I'm just gonna keep my hands down no matter what, but like it's just finding that balance that's like healthy for you and healthy
Yeah.
for your community and healthy for your, and what's so troubling right now is that like there isn't any one thing to be able to hold on to and fight against. It's just like being bombarded,
Yeah,
and
100%.
it's this
Absolutely.
blitz of things, right?
Yeah. And even like I'm not a member of like the trans community or gay bisexual. I'm in the alphabet. We don't need to get into that, but like
Sure.
so when I see them being attacked, I know I'm
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
And so just because I'm not in their community, I'll still defend the fuck out of their community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I recognize that like you're being attacked, I will be attacked. I
Yeah.
need to help you.
Yep.
And
Well, and that's
so it's go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say that's exactly. I mean, it's like it really does boil down to like anybody who thinks that they're not next on the list is fooling themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's very like, yeah, okay, I don't want to start a fight. I will fucking finish this fight though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I won't throw the first punch, but once it's thrown, it's getting ugly.
Yeah. I see. This is okay. So, this is a funny spin away, but it's like this is where I think and this is I'm not like trying to call you out directly. And I'm not trying to be like it's that like I have a personal issue with this idea of like I'll be a hero, and because like I don't want to have to be in a situation where violence is the choice, know?
No,
And,
absolutely. I get
that.
that.
And obviously I don't have a choice in a lot of, in a lot of that in the grand scale of things, but something I've been really ruminating on is this idea of like, what part did I play in the world getting here?
Yeah.
How am I responsible for what is happening? And that's not a question I hear a lot of people asking. And I think that internal introspection, is long term going to be much more beneficial than saying like it's all poo-poo heads fault,
Well, 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And that ties in with this idea of like, I agree with you that it's like if fight comes, I'll participate, but it's like I don't want to be responsible, or I don't want to hold responsibility, which I will, because we all hold responsibility to the society we live in, whether we like it or not. If we get to a point of violence and of outright conflict, that will be all of our fault.
Mm-hmm.
That won't be just one person or one other person. That's our fault. And so my question right now, it is a rhetorical question. I don't have a fucking answer, and I don't expect you to. but it's like, how do we stop things from derailing to that point, so that we don't have to think about, will I be a hero or not? I don't want to be a fucking hero. I just want to be some guy who runs a podcast.
Well, exactly. Right? Like as much as I say, like, oh, I'm ready to fight. I fucking hate white knights who go out looking for the fight and looking to defend.
That's exactly right.
If I see an injustice, I will do what I can to reverse the injustice. I will not search out injustices to get this favor from a stranger.
Exactly. That's the nuance I'm driving at, and I knew that's about, I knew that's not what you were saying. I just like, it's the thing. No, I know. Yeah. Right.
100%. And like, but I'm in a unique position where, and I don't think it's unique at all, but it's my brain says you're the only one that's done this. Is like, I grew up in a very small, isolated, rural Quebec town, like not even a town, a municipality. So like, and even then I felt like I was kind of the outsider. Like my family was new to that town compared to everybody else whose great grandpa worked in the lumber mill. Sure. And like, so like, yeah, this guy's my best friend, but his best friend is clearly his neighbor whose families have lived together for 30 years.
Of course.
And so it's just always kind of felt as like, and now I'm just rambling, but like it's always been on the outside looking in. Where is the injustice? How can I help the kid that I was?
Yes.
Where can I see that person who wants to be part of the community but recognizes that maybe they're not part of the community in the way they think they are?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's difficult to develop an eye for that, and then translate that to like the gays just want to exist.
Yeah,
Like that's
literally. Just let us fucking be. Like,
yeah, like
honestly, like, yeah.
nobody wants to dress your kid up in drag.
No, no.
We want to entertain your kid. We want to
I
teach
mean,
them about
if they want
injustices.
to, if they
Yeah,
want to,
we're
why
not
the
going to
fuck
stop
not?
them. We'll
Exactly.
educate them
Yeah,
100%. Like,
exactly.
oh, drag is sexual. You watch RuPaul and tell me that that's sexual. Like that is.
I mean, it is. Well, I mean, okay. You know what? The thing is that it's like, the thing is that it's not that drag is sexual; it's that human nature is sexual.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you're not batting an eye at any number of other things, but that's like, no, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
the only thing that has nothing to do with sex is sex. Okay, that
100%.
right. So
And
like,
it's like,
get
oh,
fucked.
drag is sexualized. Okay, but you've got the cheerleaders at every football game
There you go. Exactly.
wearing
Right.
less
Exactly.
clothes than I sleep in.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
like, I'm
Right.
not shaming them.
No. No. No.
100%. You
Yeah.
have a great body, show it off, get paid, make your money.
That's what I
But
mean.
don't
Is that
come at me with
everything's
this
sexualized?
bullshit.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's like, yeah, and that's what I mean. Is that it's like, I don't, I have no problem. I have no problem with drag being sexualized. It's that it's like everything's sexualized. So like, what if we just like abolish shaming sexuality? Like,
Why
what
do
if
we have to be Puritans about everything?
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we've really got off the the
We're on a whole different rail system.
right,
now.
exactly. We're in bizarro Joe Rogan land now, right? But let's circle it back. I'm watching the time, and I want to make sure we still get to the last couple anchor questions, but before you do that, I wanted to see if you had another question you wanted to throw my way. Or did we already do your? I can't.
We did a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you have a different one?
I could come up with one. What? So you've been part of the Codenames pipeline, where you came in with one person and you've had a different partner each time. How is that for you? Because a lot of people are just like, oh, my friend brought me in, I am connected to that person. But
Yeah.
you're very much a guest who comes in with somebody else different time, and it always seems effortless. You always seem very friendly, connected with that person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. It's probably my what's it called? Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's my low key narcissism, but yeah, no, it's that I really love the ethos of the show, where it's like, these are people I love and want to spend time with, and they brought people they love and want to spend time with,
Yeah.
And so the people I've brought on to the show have always been people I love and want to spend time with, and so it's and I'm this is, I don't know, I'm podcast. This podcast especially is the platform to overshare this kind of thing, but like, a lot of my current life is very connection starved, and so I really cherish the times I get to have an excuse to hang out with a bunch of people, and and it's fun. I liked, I used to be, I was an actor, I grew up as an actor and went to theater school, and haven't had a chance to perform really in a long time, and so it's like, it's a little bit of scratching that itch of like, I get to kind of like put on a show and like have bits, and the anxiety blanket that I had, I was like, this is such a fun bit,
I knew I'd have to call back to, because that's such a great bit. The chat had fun with that. Right. And like, I love those moments where it's like, hey, we all know this guy, we all know the funny thing he did, let's pile on.
Exactly, right? And it's like, yeah, it's just fun stuff like that, and especially that happened so organically, and and it's like, yeah, nothing ever comes in planned or anything. It's always just like, yeah, I'm just gonna bring somebody I like, and we're gonna just have a really fun evening, because like, that show is so fucking magic, and I love it so much.
It just hits that perfect something. Yeah. And it's so funny that you mentioned theater, because in Ontario, you have to get 40 hours of volunteer service, and I did musical theater to get that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like, it didn't click for me until you said that. Like, oh fuck, I am just putting on a performance. Exactly. Like, I've done Shakespeare. I was in Midsummer Night's Dream.
Okay.
But I've also done Little Shop of Horrors, where I voiced Audrey too. And
Fuck yeah.
so like,
Feed me,
yeah,
Seymour.
I was
Yeah,
like
fuck.
a 13-year-old with this voice, like.
feed me, Seymour. Right? I love that, but that's just it. It's like it's such a beautiful little, because it's like it's very it's both sides. Your team has really hit that sweet spot of like it's intimate because it's just the team. It's just the teams playing and Tim and you hosting,
Mhm.
and then but then it's also public. It's also there's the chat
Yeah,
and all that stuff going on and all the viewers, and so it's like it's a really interesting balance between those two things. And yeah, and
it's
it
very
scratches a very magic
Shakespeare
itch
in the
for me.
Park. Like it's
Yes.
very, yeah.
Yes. Oh my god.
It's a private performance publicly. Like.
Yeah. That's a perfect way of describing it. That's exactly right. And it's and it's magic. And it just and it like I say, it gives me an excuse to, Mark, who I was on with the most recent episode, he's my best friend, like he's a ride or die. I've known him for 20 years. And even though he literally only lives on the island, he lives a ferry ride away, but like we never see each other. We just like,
Mhm.
shit just always comes up, right? And so just like having that excuse to like just get to hang out with Mark, like fuck
Yeah,
the rest of you. I'm just hanging with my best friend, right?
yeah,
Like that's really special for me and really important to me. Um and I adore you and I adore Tim. And so it really like it also feels like coming back to see buddies, It's
yeah.
like, oh fuck, hey pal, like um so yeah, it's just yeah. I could gush about that for hours. I could. Yeah.
Well, and it is so special to just have that dedicated time
Hmm.
where like it's I'll get excited and I'll tell my friends, hey, James is coming back, Meg's coming back.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shit show that we want to watch.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a train disaster without none of the disaster.
Yeah.
Just smile and wave.
Yeah. And that's oh my god, that is the other magic too, is that like I love it so much, but it gives me so much anxiety. And so it's like it's just, yeah, that duality really reads on my face as I'm playing, right? Yeah.
There's not much of a smoke screen. Yeah.
No, 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 no.
But it's and like kudos to you for conquering that anxiety
Yeah.
because Meg's original partner Clayton, he
Mm,
brought on his best friend Patrick once, and
right.
Patrick immediately when the show was over, Patrick told him never again. That was I cannot do that again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's yeah, I mean it's a blast for me, and I think especially since I realized that it's like there's no stakes, there's no actual stakes. I'm
Zero.
inventing all the stakes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Zero stakes.
yeah,
We make fun of whoever loses.
yeah.
That's it.
And then you don't even remember who won the next time.
No,
It's always
exactly.
like right, yeah,
Yeah. Chat gets to bet on whoever that they use points to fuck you over in the speed round.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so this is a long-winded plug, listeners. Make sure you're watching or checking out Codenames Live because it's the best fucking show on the internet. It's so much goddamn fun. Um, um, I have the last big question, and I'm finding lately it's been really fun to kind of you know sort of close out the main interview on this question, and because it really is, it's the central idea of the show. It's been the question of for years of asking myself, have I been a good friend? And to answer that, what does that even mean? And then of course through therapy I've realized there's no such thing as good or bad,
Yeah.
and right. But I'm curious from your experience, from your personal experience and perspective, what does it mean just to be a friend?
It's to me it's just someone who offers comfort. Like that's all it is. It's that simple. It's not some deep, you don't have to come to me with your life problems. You can just say, hey, I really liked that meme you sent, here's a like. And that's the only interaction we'll have for a week. Hey, sweet, I'm glad I brought you joy.
Mm.
Problem solved. And like there are specific times where like I fucking love the term, it comes from penguins, I'll pebble people, where I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
this made me think of you, I'm sending it directly to you, this isn't main feed, this is straight to you.
Yeah.
And I fucking love doing that. And people be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you remembered that." Like I've got one of my friends who grew up with, like, her mom and my mom were childhood friends, so we connected. And like I know she loves The Sims, so when I see an update, I'll send her, "Hey, The Sims just added robbers back into the game,"
Fuck
and
yeah.
she'd be like, "Man, I haven't played The Sims in like a year." I was like, "I know, but I know like I grew up you playing Sims 2. We're in our 30s. You're playing Sims 4.
Mhm.
Here's the thing about The Sims."
Fuck yeah. I think that's it's a question I have with myself often, back and forth, of like the idea of like the levels of intimacy, right?
Hmm.
And I think personally, I lean more towards that type of friendship of just like it doesn't need to be deep to be valued,
Yeah.
right? I think the core connections I do have, and there's very few of them, but those ones are like I will
Yeah.
defend them. But like the rest, like it doesn't mean you're a lesser friend, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that we all get so caught up in, is that
Mm,
I am not the best friend in the world to this person, so therefore I'm useless. And it's not. There are 6 trillion shades of gray in between good friend, bad friend, enemy. Like, it's not
mm,
just this dichotomy. It's not a gas gauge where you're full, you're empty, whatever.
mm,
There are levels to it, and I think more people need to recognize that you don't have to go all in if you can't go all in with this person. Like, it's
yeah.
meet them where they're willing to meet you, and just go with it.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Sam fucking Murdock. God damn. What a blast. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been so much fun. Before we wrap up, I do want to say, like, it has been such a pleasure. It's been a little over a year since we met, and every time I get to see you, it's always a treat. And I love all the little bits. I love the bye Sam, like
Yeah,
I love it all, and I just, yeah, you bring so much joy to that feed, and you bring so much joy to wherever you're going, and it's just it's such a pleasure knowing you, and I'm really excited to come back on Codenames whenever, and or whatever, like I'm just
hell
excited
yeah,
to stay connected with you going forward, right?
hell yeah,
Um, Before we get the last, I always like to leave listeners on like an actionable question of like one,
yeah.
but before we do that, where can listeners find you? Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything at all?
They're more than welcome to add me on Facebook. Sam Murdock. I'm sure you'll have it written somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a picture of my face, I believe, right now. So look for that. Otherwise, if you want to see what Twitch is all about, Suited Monkey, as in a monkey wearing like a tux, all one word. Twitch.tv/Suited Monkey. I'm there sporadically. I giggle because I call it guerrilla streaming in both the double entendre. It's I don't have a schedule. I'll pop up when I feel like popping up, but also
Yep.
gorilla is a monkey. Haha, dumb joke.
Technically, they're apes, but
That's
we'll let it
fair.
slide. Right?
Which I always laugh of because I got one of my friends to design my banner, and she drew a chimp, and I went, "That's an ape,"
Yeah.
but I promised I'd pay you, and you put a lot of work into this.
Yep. 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 I love it. Yeah, all those are going to be in the show notes. Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. This has been just such a treat.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Last thing, as I said, I love leaving listeners on an actionable step they can try out. So, what is one thing listeners could try doing this week to be a more effective friend to themselves or to their community?
Yeah, one thing. Um, Look, you'll see little things going on with your friends through the things they share and the things they say. I discovered a friend went through a divorce just because she changed her name on Facebook, and I went, "Hey,
Mm,
everything okay? I saw you change your name." And she's like, "Oh, we haven't spoken in like a year, but I just left my husband." And I went,
yeah.
"This is going to take a little more energy," and it's just I noticed something on Facebook, and it's
Mm.
little things like that. Just look at what your friends are sharing, what they're saying, and don't take it all at face value. Dig a little bit.
Yeah. My running joke is always, every story I share is a little cry for help,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah, absolutely. Like when the Ontario election just went by,
Mhm.
immediately I said, "Fuck you! I'm done. I'm moving. I'm done with this province." And
Yeah.
I immediately had people reaching out saying, "Are you okay? Like, are you
Yeah.
safe?" And I was, "Bless you.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
just screaming into the void because it's cheaper than therapy."
Right. Fuck though. Yeah, I don't know where we're gonna go, but we're probably gonna have to figure something out soon. But
Yeah,
Sam fucking Murdoch, one more time. Thank you so much. Bless you.
my
You're a good
pleasure.
man.
Thank you so much for bringing me on.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to, I'm 7 years on and I still don't have a sign off the way that you got that, like, keep timid and real. I don't know. I say fun and safety, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll workshop something.
Sometimes no sign off is the sign off. That's
There you go. Right. Exactly. Well, Sam, go fuck yourself. And that's it. Huge thanks to Sam for joining me today and sharing his insights into the wild world of online gaming. Sam is an absolute gem, and if you haven't, be sure to check out his Twitch channel and also go watch Codenames live. It's on every week, and it's an absolute blast. I've been on a couple episodes, and I've always had just the time of my life. All the links to that are going to be in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you would help this community grow. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Why not share your favorite moment on your social media platform of choice? Or just tell a friend, you know? Make that in-person connection and tell them all about Friendless. Please help. No. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Friendless Substack. It's a monthly newsletter filled with all kinds of goodies. It's fun. It's free. You won't regret it. As always, the links are in the show notes. But that's it for me for another week, so let's wrap things up here. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope I'm going to catch you back here next week, but I'm not going to worry about that right now, and neither should you, because that is then, and this is now. So for now, I'll just say I love you, and I wish you well. Fun and safety, sweet peas.